good. How are you?
Yeah, it's good to talk to you.
Same here.
I mean, it must be pretty busy just now.
It is, but it's all good. It's a lot of lovely interviews, so I'm okay with it.
Good. Well, hopefully this is another lovely one to add to the list.
I'm sure.
So we'll just jump straight in if that's okay. And I would really like to go back to the start of your music career and
Okay.
just kind of talk a little bit about your kind of introduction to the music industry.
Right. Well, I think I've always been very ambitious from when I was even a child to become something of a pop star, I would say. So I was writing my own music, doing my time in studios. I think from about the time I was 13. And then I signed my first deal when I was 17, 18 years old, and released my song that I written and produced myself called "Gonna Lose You," and it became a hit here in Belgium. And I was a pop star for a moment, for a brief moment, and I won like a best debut prize, like for the local Grammys or something. And I guess what you're also maybe asking is it was quite an experience for me because I got to achieve something that I've dreamed of all my life, and then when it happened, it wasn't the fantasy I had envisioned for myself.
Okay.
Meaning this was 20 years ago. I'm a bit of an older man, so this was in 2001 when I was 20 years old, and yeah, it just became a thing where my sexuality was not a problem, but it was kind of encouraged to keep it mysterious. So not to really talk about it, not to really make it into something because it could be a problem for potential fans. And I think that kind of messed with me as a young artist to really start
Yeah.
my career. So I kind of stepped out of that kind of like idea of what I had about being a pop star and really focused on being an all-round musician. And I started, I finished my studies as a master in jazz singing, and started working as a vocal coach, backing vocalist, producer, and writer. Yeah.
So you,
But
you
that's
mentioned obviously that was really interesting about, your sexuality and finding it quite difficult to kind of fully express yourself back in the early noughties. Do you think it's been a huge change now, or do you think there is still kind of challenges for LGBTQ
Well,
artists?
I think that there's definitely still challenges in the bigger scheme of things, I would say. But what I can say is now, as an artist, I feel like it's very okay to just acknowledge who you are in the fullest form, and I think therefore your sexuality becomes, a part of that. I think there's a lot more honesty when it comes to artistry now and about who we are. I think also platforms like social media or platforms like TikTok is really aimed to keep that like big I'm a star thing out of the way and it makes everyone more real. So I think therefore sexuality makes it also more open right now. And yeah, it's I see a lot of young artists now who are completely themselves and who are flying their pride flag very high when they're doing their artistry. So I find that beautiful these days. So I'm glad that things have changed.
We also need to take a moment to really celebrate your work with Hercules and Love Affair as well, which a lot of fans will know you from. Um, and such a real sort of fantastic sample of electronic music. How did that collaboration come about? Because I know you've done quite a lot of tracks with them.
Yes. It started because I think by the time I was already working under the alias Gustaph in those times, this is 2011, I think. And I was doing a lot of gigs with other DJs where I would like do be a bit of emceeing. I did some live house vocals. It was very much in the house scene that I was profiling myself. And we were in Ghent city here in Belgium, and Andy had to DJ at the same event I had to DJ at and sing at. And yeah, he came to. I told him I was a big fan. I was really a big fan of Hercules and Love Affair. So of course I had to tell him. And then he came to my set and he listened to me sing. And I think he called the day after asking if I would be interested in collaborating with him. And from there on, we started a relationship that lasted for about 7 years. So yeah, and I was part of the crew, I guess, because I was on two records, Feast of Broken Heart and Omnian, and I was always part of the touring crew. So yeah, it was a great experience for me because I think I was still looking a bit for how I wanted to profile myself, and especially when it came to fashion. Because now I'm very it's part of my expression tool, I guess. But in those days, I wasn't sure how to do that yet, in the right way. And I always say, as an example, like I had some issues with, because I think because of the whole gay thing 20 years before, I was still not quite sure how to profile myself on
Yes.
stage. And I think they said something like, "Well, get over it and put on these leggings." That's kind of how I. And it really, I think the performer I am today would have not existed if it wasn't for Hercules and Love Affair. So I'm very grateful to Andy Butler for helping me to achieve that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it is amazing because it seems like quite a nice transition into obviously your performances at Eurosong. And I know obviously you had experience as a backing vocalist for Hooverphonic and Stefan, sorry, Senec.
Yes.
So it's kind of nice, like a natural transition to get to this point where you are on stage as the artist. Um, what kind of sparked that decision for you to enter Eurosong?
I think definitely my being part of the delegation twice was definitely a factor, because I kind of saw how it worked, and it made me excited in a sense that I was like, I wouldn't mind doing that for myself and having that experience for myself, because you kind of see how it works, and I fell more in love with Eurovision because of it. It was really a beautiful experience for me. And yeah, I think in 2016, the VRT asked me to potentially be one of the candidates for another national final. But we were just finishing up the second record for Hercules and Love Affair at that point. We were about to embark on a tour, so it was really not the time. But it kept, honestly, in the back of my mind, I was a bit gutted, because I was like, oh, I wish I could have. And especially the years after, like, I wish I should have done this. I could have done this. And I think the last trigger for me was Corona, because every artist in that period was frustrated, and I'm sure reevaluating their life choices. And I remember being a bit frustrated because I turned 40, and I was like, I got this feeling I was like the over the hill artist, which I just completely programmed in my own brain, to be very clear. And but I think because of it, I really was like, no, I still got it. I can still achieve things. And I realized Eurovision was on my bucket list. So when the opportunity came, I really didn't hesitate to go for it. Yeah.
And we're glad you did.
Yes.
Uh, what is it about Belgium? Because I was looking at the kind of list of entrants from the first performance in the contest, and it is such a real distinct quality. And I don't know what it is, but you Blanche, Hooverphonic, Elliot, Kate Ryan, Sandra Kim, like they all brought something very different. But what was it? What is Belgium's kind of spark in the contest?
That's a tough one, but because we're also so, I think we're not known for just one thing when you look at our resume. Um, I think but I do think when I look at what we sent, it was never really the safe bet. I think we always went for something that was maybe a bit outside of the box, which I think is very much in theme with Belgian culture. We are a bit surrealistic people who live out in a sort of like different realm, I think, than some other people. So that kind of makes sense to me. And for me, when I look at my entries, it's very different from what happened the years before, because Senec and Hooverphonic, and I was part of that delegation, mind you, but it was very much more dark themed and quite moody. So and now the Belgian people have literally chosen this song, which is something completely different than that tradition. So I think the outside of the box thing is definitely something that we can use as a sort of like defining term for our
Like
entries.
that was a tough question because I didn't even really have an answer in mind. Um, so obviously the writing process for because we used the collaborative one with was it Jude? Um,
Jawatalu,
Ja-
Jawatalu was it?
my
That's fine.
terrible pronunciation.
That's fine. That's fine.
So what was that process like? Were you kind of listening to a lot of kind of like 90s house and soul, or what was going through your mind?
Yeah, exactly. No, we were working together. I mean, we still work together, but last year we were touring together, and we wanted to have some songs to sing on that tour. And because it's like we did sort of like a DJ, like I would DJ and maybe we would sing together, that kind of stuff. So it was a lot of house classics that we were looking into already to play and to sing. And we also decided after a point, like we can write, so why not just write a couple of songs in the set list? And that's how, because of you, kind of started. And we were definitely influenced by, you know, Juliet Roberts, Martha Wash, CC Peniston, like those really early 90s tracks. And for me, you know, I was like, I think 10, 11 in the 90s when that whole house era started. And it reminded me of being a little kid and watching MTV videos and seeing CC Peniston finally on my MTV screen. So we were definitely influenced by that from an aesthetic perspective. And we also wanted to write something that was self-empowering. And we felt, I want to say this right, but the reason why, because of you, is about self-empowerment, also about thanking the people around you, is because we didn't want it to become too stale quickly. Like, it's like, I'm the best, like this kind of like, I'm amazing. I know it sounds maybe daft to say it like this, but we really wanted it to be like about something truthful, about something like, I'm really proud of who I am, and it's because of you. So it still shows a humble side, because you're not like, I did it by myself, you're welcome. It's not like that at all. It's really about thanking the people around you. So that's kind of what we combined, the message and then that 90s aesthetic.
Yeah, I think it's such a kind of friendly theme for Eurovision as well, because obviously we know the artists are the face of the nation, but there's such a big team behind you as well, and people kind of as part of this sort of delegation. So I think it's a nice message that will kind of translate really well.
Yeah, I
Um,
hope so. Yeah.
I think as well, like the music video as well, there's these kind of 90s vibes as well. It has that kind of like fashion commercial, like it has
Completely, yeah,
that.
because you completely got it, because that's really that was the mood board, literally. And it was also, we wanted to really be very, the great thing or the great luck I have is that my husband is my visual director, so I can easily just bounce off of him. And the funny thing is, we made mood boards for everything, the visuals, the video, and we came up with the same things. So when it's all this kind of like early 90s influence stuff, we looked at a lot of Herb Ritts photography from that era, which is really this iconic black and white, harking back to some 40s glamour with then some colorful elements. So we really wanted to be a tribute to that era for sure. Yeah.
Does your does your husband kind of play a role in listening to the music as well and saying like, oh, I think you can maybe tweak that, or does he leave the music to you?
No, no, no. He's definitely. Think I have like a bunch of people around me, like a little circle that I always send my stuff to the first. And the great thing is, so my husband is part of that circle, but also the people who are on stage with me singing and performing are part of that circle.
Yeah.
So they've been included into this whole journey from the beginning in that sense. So, but yeah, my husband, he's just someone I can trust. I can trust his opinion, and I think you need that as an artist, because you want sometimes to have people around you who will also say, maybe change that, or think
Yeah.
about this, or maybe that song isn't that good, or rewrite that. I think it's good to have people you trust, so you know when to kind of take the criticism in the right way and let it be constructive criticism. Then, yeah.
So because of you, I know you can't talk too much about the staging. You'll get in trouble, and I don't want that to happen. Could you give me like three words to like capture the vibe of the staging?
Yes, it's a good question. Um, Dynamic, celebration, colorful.
I'm excited. It's one of these ones I always ask, but really nobody can really say anything. So I feel like the three words is a good way to get around that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a very good question of you. Yeah.
So what do you think makes a perfect Eurovision song?
God, if I knew that, I would have written one every year. But truthfully, because I thought a lot about that actually this morning for some reason. So it's a very good question about what makes it the, because I was thinking about all the entries this year, and they're so eclectic, and it goes from really some folklore inspired music going to perfect pop songs, into power ballads, into quirky gimmicky songs, and a lot of those songs stand a chance. But I think, therefore, what I'm thinking is, maybe it's a cliche, but I have to go with something. So I'm thinking that the public will still see if something is truthful, even if it's a gimmick. If it has to be truthful to the artist and what you're portraying. And I do think a crowd or an audience will understand instinctively when that is right or that is not right. And I think there's a lot of, look at how Portugal in 2017 and then Netta in 2018, both amazing songs and again truthful. She was doing something like with the soundscaping, with her percussion and stuff, mouth percussion, and he was singing a beautiful ballad the year before, and they couldn't be more apart yeah, aesthetically and musically, but they both worked because it was truthful. So I do think that's part of it, because honestly, I don't think you can say, you could say, because people say like, you need a modulation, you need to have your hook repeated that many times, you need to sing your hook before 1 minute, whatever. But honestly, when you look at some of the winners, they usually are doing something completely different.
It's out of the box, I think, is this.
Yeah.
Um, how do you kind of prepare yourself mentally for something as big as Eurovision? Is it a bit of a kind of an uphill battle, or do you just kind of take it as it comes and just embrace it?
But the thing is, there is no reference for this. And all I can do, which I'm kind of lucky in, is like I do have some people. I called some people in Belgium who like Kate Ryan, for example, is a good friend of mine. So she was there when I won the national final, for example. She really was very supportive. And I talked to her about the experience and stuff. And it all comes down to the same thing, is like, stay focused on what you're there to do, which is perform. So that's something I really take into consideration. For me, I have to say, because I was much more nervous when I won the national final than I am right now, because it feels like I could delegate a vision and it fell into place. And I really feel we're going to do something really good at the semifinals. So it does make me a bit more calm in that sense, which is not to say that I don't have my moments of, oh my God, this is really happening. It still feels a bit on, like me arriving at these Eurovision pre-parties and people saying they know the song is baffles my mind, honestly, still to this day. But it's beautiful, eh? It's really beautiful. So I think my mind is sometimes still playing catch up, I guess. But I feel confident because I feel much more relaxed than I did, for example, 2 months ago. So yeah.
Um, I think as well, but with the national final, you're putting the song out there for the first time. You're putting your vision out there for the first time. Whereas when Eurovision comes around, you've had 6, 7 months to kind of think, okay, well, this is what we're going to do, and this is how it's going to look. So maybe it makes it a wee bit less sort of intimidating.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, it's true, because you prepare more stuff and you feel. I went in with the preparations, knowing I have to make sure I've done everything I possibly could think of to do. So when I arrive on stage, I know I will have done everything that I had to do to make it a good performance, and
Um,
that idea made me calm. Yeah.
yeah. You mentioned obviously the pre-parties, and that's a really good chance for you to meet other artists and get to know fellow entrants. Is there any songs that have really clicked with you so far from the sort of year 2023?
A lot, I have to say. I think it's the same every year for fans. I'm a fan too. You end up liking all the songs. First, you're like, I love this one, and then some of the songs that they're just growers, and then you love them more. But I say this a lot. Gutturally, I really immediately felt connected to Évidemment by Lazara. I just think it's a great. I love everything about her. I love her look. I love the song. I love the way she sings. I always say it's like Edith Piaf going to Studio 54, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
a great combination of elements that you would never think to combine. I really enjoy Spain. I really enjoy May Muller. But I also have to say, with favorites, I think I still need to wait until we get to those semifinals and we see the
Yeah.
staging and the performance. Because someone like Mimicat, for example, who I've seen perform twice now at these parties, she blows your mind on stage. She's incredible, and she lifts the song, because and I like the song. Don't get me wrong, but I was like, I love it now because of her performance. And that's also the beauty of Eurovision. It also comes down to those things, because and so that's kind of why I don't have favorites yet, but I also have some sentimental favorites because, like, for example, Joker Out. Those guys are just so sweet, and they've been singing my song like every 2 days on their Instagram stories, and they're just so lovely. So, and I did their song on the piano, so I love their song as well in that sense. Yeah, it's just the nice thing is I didn't expect to feel so connected to some of the artists. Me, not that I was expecting to be like a cold bastard, but I just didn't think it would create this kind of like camaraderie that quickly.
Yeah. It does. It does. It sounds a cliche, but it does sound a bit like a family. You're all in this experience together.
Yes, yes.
Um, I'd love to think a little bit about Belgium generally, and to people that haven't visited Belgium before, where would you recommend? Where is your kind of special place in Belgium?
Well, as an Antwerp living person, I'm gonna have to say visit Antwerp, because it's just a beautiful city where there's a lot of fashion, a lot of great restaurants, and a lot of great museums and stuff as well. And it's just, I think it's a great way to get introduced to Belgium. But I think a lot of cities, we have Bruges, we have Ghent, we have Brussels, our main capital. There's a lot of beautiful places to visit. And I think we have a very rich culture, literally, meaning like if you want to go to some beautiful museums with great art, there's lots of that in Antwerp, Brussels, and in Ghent and Bruges. And also really go and yeah, if you want to go and go to a really good old-fashioned restaurant and get stoofvlees, which stoofvlees is like our stew, our local stew. You have it with fries. It's beautiful. It's very good. Or have a vol au vent, which I think you know. Vol au vent is something that everyone knows, but it's something that they really do to perfection here in Belgium. And you just eat it with fries.
Oh, we've got cat invading the screen here.
Aww.
There you go. This is the joy of working at home.
Yes.
Um, so I would love to just kind of finish with a little kind of wrap up of getting to know Gustaph, some quick fire questions. First
Okay.
thing that popped into your head, nothing too tricky. Um, so favorite film?
Favorite film is The Color Purple, by
Nice.
Steven Spielberg.
The last song you listened to?
I can't remember what that was. I think it was actually Évidemment by Lazara because I put it on this morning while getting ready. Yeah.
Any hidden talents?
Not really, but maybe I can say I do pride myself in being a good host and a good cook. So that's
That's a
maybe.
skill. That's a skill.
We'll always
Um,
have a drink and food in my house. That's the thing.
your top travel destination?
Greece, Greece, no question.
All-time favorite singer?
Shaka Khan.
Nice. Is there an album on the way?
Yes.
Yes. Watch the space.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly.
do you prefer a banger or a ballad?
Banger.
Banger.
Oh no! Oh, that's a hard one. Was it? But yeah, well, Banger was the first one, so I'll stick to Banger.
The most underrated Gustaph song. What
God,
deserves more love?
I don't know. That's well, I don't know. Maybe if people want to be invested in that kind of energy, like then they should go check out Jaded. It's a song I wrote 10 years ago, and I do think it was a little bit of a hit here in Belgium, but it could get more recognition. So check out
Yeah,
Jaded by me.
jaded. Your closing words to the UK audience.
Sorry, what was that? What
Your
did you say?
closing
Sorry.
words, your final words to the UK audience.
Well, thank you for well, not thank you. I have to say something else. I can't wait to go to get to the UK, see everyone in Liverpool, and I have to say I've been getting a lot of beautiful messages from people from the UK about the song. I think something about the house influence definitely works on UK ground. So thank you for showing the love in that sense, and I can't wait to see everyone in Liverpool.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for chatting. It's honestly it's been really fun and wish you all the best for Liverpool and have fun, enjoy the experience.
I will for sure.
Fantastic. Well, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye
Bye.
bye.